Good evening and welcome. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you here to our August 28th, 2019 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. We welcome you whether you're here in the room with us tonight or whether you are watching us on our cable access channel, Spectrum Channel 1303, or on our live YouTube feed. However you choose to watch us and participate with us tonight, we welcome you. And I would note that you will have available to you, again, whether you're here in the room or whether you're watching us remotely, the agenda and all of our supporting material that goes with it. If you're here in the room, that material is on the back table. And if you are watching us live on streaming on our webpage or on channel 1303, all of the same material is available on the town's webpage, so you can follow along with us. We will start with a pledge to the flag. I'll ask Councilmember DePonzio to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Jason. And thank you also to our interpreters, our ASL interpreters who are here tonight. Yeah, let's give them a shout out. Tony and Susan are with us this evening interpreting as part of our efforts to be as accessible as we can be to the entire community, and we thank you both. It's good to have you both here with us again. We're going to start this evening with a proclamation, and it's a proclamation recognizing that earlier this week on Monday, August 26th, we recognized Women's Equality Day. Women's Equality Day is a day celebrated on the anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, the amendment that gave women the right to vote, although as we have seen, it is one thing to give and really to say they gave the right to vote is also a bit of a misnomer, because it was a hell of a fight that, as we all know, Rochester was very much a part of, with Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and others. So there's no giving involved, but that right was granted with the passage of the 19th Amendment. However, as we know, there are people in the community who were not immediately given the right to vote, African American women and others, and to this day, the right to vote continues to be a challenge. But I think it is important, having said that, to recognize Women's Equality Day and to recognize the grant of the right to vote, because it was an important milestone in our history, and certainly 40% of this town board wouldn't be here but for that 19th Amendment. So let me read our proclamation. Whereas, nearly a century ago, the courageous and dedicated women who marched, advocated, and organized for the right to vote finally saw their efforts become a reality when on August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment was certified, ratified, and the right for women to vote was realized. Whereas in the decades that followed, that revered right has bolstered and empowered generations of women to stand up, speak out, and guide our nation towards legal, economic, and social equity. And whereas today we celebrate the 99th anniversary of this hard-won achievement and pay tribute to the trailblazers and suffragists who moved us closer to a more just and prosperous future. And we recommit ourselves to protecting this constitutional right and rededicate ourselves in the fight for equal rights for people of all genders, ages, races, nationalities, and faiths. And whereas Women's Equality Day is a day for all of us to recognize the accomplishments that so many women fought so hard to achieve, but also to acknowledge that today challenges still remain for women and girls everywhere. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of our Town Council do hereby celebrate the achievements of women from our past and of our present who fight for equal rights and pledge our support to all people across the globe who continue to work tirelessly and unselfishly to promote gender equality, and further proclaim that August 26, 2019, celebrated as Women's Equality Day in the town of Brighton. And this proclamation is signed by myself and my colleagues on the town board, and I thank you for that. And next year, we will be doing a whole lot more to celebrate 100 years of the 19th Amendment and women's suffrage. And I hope that we will also fill in some of those blanks that are still in jeopardy, frankly, when it comes to voting. Okay. As we always do, now we are going to move to the open forum portion of our meeting. The open forum is an opportunity for anyone to address the town board, whether it's about a matter that's on tonight's agenda or not. And it's also an opportunity that we will share whether or not you're here in the room. If you are watching us remotely and something on the agenda has piqued your interest, or if you've got a question or a comment, you can call in at 303-3060, 303-3060. That same number, if you are deaf or hard of hearing, you can use your video phone, 303-3060. Someone will take your question or your comment and relay it to me. And we look forward, as always, to hearing your comments or your questions during the open forum. So, is there anyone here in the audience tonight that would like to address the town board during our open forum? Okay, hearing none. Then can I have a motion to approve our agenda with the addition of a public hearing on parking restrictions on Orchard Drive, local law? That public hearing has been properly noticed, posted, but it's, we want to make sure it's on our agenda. So with that change, Chris, thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. So, as I indicated, we will go to that one public hearing that we have tonight on the proposed parking restriction on Orchard Drive. And I'm going to ask...
Supervisor Maley, if I
Yep.
could ask the indulgence of the town board on this.
you want to handle a couple of these other matters?
Could you do communications first?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Sorry. Yep. Then we'll go to communications, and can I have a motion to receive and file those communications?
So moved.
Second.
I'll walk through these. First is the annual update from the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, which sets Brighton's equalization rate for property tax assessment at 100. That's a good thing. It is an indication that following our revaluation that we completed last year, that our assessed valuations in the town generally do reflect the actual values of properties in the town of Brighton. So when your equalization rate is 100, that's a good thing. That equalization rate is one of the factors that we look at in determining whether or not a revaluation of town real estate is necessary. So that's a good report from the state. We also have communication from the U.S. Conference of Mayors relating to best practices, mayors and businesses driving economic growth. And I mention that in part because the Conference of Mayors, and obviously I'm not a mayor, I'm a town supervisor, but we work with the Conference of Mayors, and in particular in some of their advocacy efforts. Recently, I have signed a letter, for example, relating to legislation pending in Congress relating to weapons. We have acted on a number of those letters that come from the Conference of Mayors. So their work is important, and this is interesting information, and it's something I'll be looking at since economic growth is very important to the town of Brighton, particularly because it provides us with an opportunity to grow our tax base. We just talked about that tax base, but growth in our tax base is essential if we are to continue to provide the level of service that our residents have a right to expect. So we also have a correspondence from Rochelle Bell, who is the planning manager for the Monroe County Department of Planning and Development. There's a transmittal letter in your packet, but there is also a much thicker 2020 through 2025 capital improvement program from the County of Monroe, and that covers the various capital projects that Monroe County anticipates working on over the next 5 years, everything from roads and bridges, parks, other sorts of infrastructure. I would note that, maybe I'll just note it without comment, I did not see a lot of capital investment by Monroe County in the town of Brighton in the upcoming 5 years. And that troubles me, because we do have, a variety of county facilities, particularly relating to our streets and highways. So we'll be taking a close look at that, and a close look at the facilities and infrastructure that we have here, and we want to make sure that in Brighton we're getting our fair share of county capital improvements. Sometimes those projects can be a nuisance while they're going on. Construction, if it's a road or a bridge, can involve some disruption, but it's important that capital projects that benefit all of us are being completed equitably. Next, we have communication from Kevin Bush, the Regional Director of the State Department of Transportation. I will have more to say on this in the very near future, but we have the finding statement issued by the New York State Department of Transportation under the State Environmental Quality Review Act with respect to the proposed Whole Foods project, which is an important document. Next we have, and the agenda I see describes retirement, and it's really the resignation of Officer John Starr. And Mark, if you can talk a little bit about his service with the town.
John has been with us for 3 years. His wife just received employment in downtown Buffalo, and he chose to transfer to the Orchard Park Police Department so that his wife would not have to commute. So he's done a tremendous job for us at the police department.
Well, we wish him well, and glad that he'll continue on in law enforcement. Now, the last letter is one that I'm not quite as happy to see. But I am happy because I know this is a culmination of an extraordinary career, and I'll have more to say about that at a future meeting. But as you have no doubt seen, our police chief, Mark Henderson, has submitted his letter announcing his retirement from the Brighton Police Department after 33 years, is it, Mark? Give or take.
It's a moving, November of 1986 is when I started, the year Dan was born.
So in your 33rd year, and you had some prior experience down in Canandaigua as
City of
well.
Canandaigua in my 35th year.
So, Mark, if you don't mind just talking a little bit about your future plans, since those
Sure.
are also
Before I
public.
talk about me, I'd like to talk about you, the board, and the previous board and board members that I've served with. I was afforded a tremendous opportunity in July of 2010, and that was to become the successor to Tom Vogel and become the Brighton Police Chief. And it's been a tremendous opportunity. I've enjoyed every moment of it. There's been tragedies, there's been positive moments, but all in all, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. And along the way, I've gained 36,000 friends in the community. And plus 609 to be exact. I'm waiting for the new census to come out. I think it'll be a little bit higher, but and I've appreciated the support of the board, Supervisor Franco, Supervisor Maley, and all the board members that I've served with, and I couldn't have done my job had it not been the support from all of you, and I appreciate that. And so the next chapter is not totally leaving the Brighton community. The next chapter involves a position with the Jewish Federation of Greater Rochester and a national organization called Secure Community Network. It focuses on community security. I'll be the regional director for Western New York. We'll start in Rochester, bring on board Buffalo, and then Syracuse. And I'll have a little bit of a national exposure in training House of Worship response plans and stuff. Couldn't have done it without the experience I gained here in Brighton, and I'm appreciative of the opportunity that this affords to me. I still will be able to come to the town board meeting, maybe even speak at open forum, but I anticipate a lot of collaboration with the Brighton Police moving forward and the town board, and seeing you at all the functions for the Federation.
Well, under your leadership, Mark, there has been a level of collaboration in the community that is second to none.
Thanks.
And I know that's one of the things that the Federation observed. Your leadership of the Brighton Police Department is such an important part of the quality of life that we have here in Brighton. Public safety is a critical mission of local government, and under your leadership, the Brighton Police Department does an exemplary job of keeping this community safe. But policing and law enforcement and public safety, goes far beyond just keeping the community safe. It is that dialogue with the community. It is making sure that everybody in the community, in whatever contact they may have with law enforcement, feels as though they have been treated with respect. And I know from personal experience that is mission critical for you, that you engage where there are questions, you engage where people have concerns, but you have brought new programming, new policies to the department, to the town, whether it's body-worn cameras, being a great example of that, that have kept the Brighton Police Department at the very top echelon, I would say the finest law enforcement agency in the state of New York. Now, we're going to have more to say at a future time. We're not going to let you off
So this is not my last board meeting, I have to come back? Thank you, Bill.
But I know that all of us that are here tonight extend our gratitude, our appreciation, and yeah, we'll have more to say about those exemplary 33 years of service. So with all of those items of communication, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Next matter is, as I mentioned, the public hearing on a proposed local law that would amend the town code to restrict parking on Orchard Drive east of its intersection with Meadow Drive. Dan, has legal notice been provided in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, notice was published in the Brighton Pittsburgh Post on August the 8th.
And it is posted
On the board and website as well.
Great. Notice having been given, and this is, I know, a matter that has been brought before the Public Safety Committee as well, but I will ask Chief Henderson if you can briefly talk about this proposal.
So we have a section off of Orchard Road that involves two residents. And there's a spur of roadway that the frequency of calls between the two neighbors involving that section of roadways has increased. And it involves neighbors blocking neighbors by parking vehicles close to driveways, neighbors driving up and preventing other drivers from leaving. So we've tried mediation, we've offered professional mediation. The last situation that I witnessed, I witnessed it, viewed the interaction of the body-worn camera. I see no resolution. We've tried every attempt at dispute mediation. We've tried every attempt at de-escalation. It is not working. And one of the suggestions I made to both residents that if they could not come to an agreement, I would come to this body and ask that you take legislative action to prohibit parking. In the event that we do get an escalation in the neighbor troubles, it will afford us some enforcement action of removing the vehicles from the roadway. So I would ask that the board consider this ordinance so more of a means of trying to prevent an escalation in a very concerning situation involving two neighbors.
And it is fairly close quarters. It's a short stub at the end of the street.
Yep.
And so, well, thanks for that background. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board concerning this proposed local law? I'll ask the town attorney, is there anything you want to add for the record of this public hearing?
Supervisor, I did notice a language change that needs to be made. I did provide the board with a draft of this local law at the meeting on July 24th, which indicated that it would be an amendment to section 18546 of the town code. That particular section references no parking at all times and has a list of a number of streets throughout the town. In preparing for tonight's hearing, I took another look at the code and noticed that all of the other parking restrictions for that neighborhood, for Irving Road, for Orchard Drive, for Sunset Drive, were contained in section 18553, which is a no parking from here to corner sign. Either is going to do, I think, what the chief is intending here to restrict the problems on that stub street. But it seemed to me that it would be placed better in section 18553 so that it could be found along with the other parking restrictions in that neighborhood. So there is a language change that you have in front of you from what was originally proposed. It simply changes 18546 to 18553.
Does that affect the signage that would be used at that location?
The signage that 18553 suggests is no parking from here to corner.
So I would say that there's enough of a spur there that that would not apply. That was the discussion we had last time. We also had a discussion about close proximity to the mouth of a driveway, and we could not resolve that issue either. If there's a way that the highway department can post from the spur down, no parking on either side, that'll be clear enough.
That would be preferable?
Yeah.
Then, let me restore the original, suggest that the board restore the original section, which is 18546.
Okay, and I will just, if those other parking restrictions affecting that neighborhood are potentially not accurately placed in section 18553, and that, or whether they match up with the signage there, let's take a look at that and make sure it's properly placed, and if a technical amendment to the code is needed, we can do that at a future time. But I think it'll be much clearer if if we keep it in 46.
Okay, so then I would suggest that whoever moves this particular adoption of this resolution for this local law, note that the resolution be adopted along with the local law, with the change being a change to an amendment of section 18546 instead of 18553.
Good. All right. Any further comments, whether from the audience or from members of the board? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing on the draft local law parking restrictions for Orchard Drive local law to be closed. And can I have a motion to adopt the resolution that you have in front of you?
Bill, I move that we consider the adoption of a proposed local law to restrict parking on Orchard Drive east of the intersection with Meadow Drive, and to amend the Brighton Town Code by amending section 185-46 of the Town Code by adopting the resolution before us with the change of the code section from 185-53 to 185-46.
And I would note that that change should also appear not only in the text of the local law, but also in the text of the resolution itself, in two places, in the first paragraph, the whereas paragraph, and the enacted paragraph. In each case, the 53 will be changed to 46.
Correct.
And you'll take that friendly amendment.
Yes.
And do I have a second to that?
Second.
Yep.
Okay, motion by Chris, and I think Jason got under the wire on that. Any further discussion on this proposed local law? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. And as always, this local law has to be filed with the Department of State, and once we have noticed that it's been filed with the Department of State, you'll let Mike know, and we'll get those signs out.
And I'll make sure that the town clerk has an email containing the finally adopted versions of both the resolution and the local law.
Thank you. Okay, moving on then to committee reports. We'll start, as always, with Community Services. Robin.
Thank you, Bill. The Community Services Committee met on Wednesday, August 21st at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside School. And among the items that we discussed under continuing business were park issues. The ongoing seasonal maintenance, that is painting and staining of the lodges, continues. Work on knee fencing at Corbett's Glen to continue the trail border at its current north and south ends will recommence after Labor Day, and trees needing removal within Corbett's Glen were also discussed, and one of them is a matter of discussion tonight on the agenda. The Superintendent of Parks is working with Game Time to secure matching grant funding for new playground equipment replacement at Meridian Center Park. Ideas for ways to improve the playground if grant funding isn't realized or other budgetary concerns are raised are also being developed. In regards to our recreation programs, the summer programs and camps are winding down after a successful season, and the fall recreation brochures are out. And registration begins on September 3rd for residents, and registration for non-residents will be open on September 10th. The Bands at Buckland series was a huge success this year. Relocating the youngest youth soccer programs to an alternate site allowed the concerts to grow without increased safety concerns. Concessions remain somewhat of a challenge, but Matt Beeman, our park superintendent, will continue to try to locate a food vendor that represents a good fit for the needs of the concert series. Work continues on purchasing and installing an art hanging system in parts of the Buckland House, with hopes of making the space more flexible and appealing for ongoing use by both town and community groups. The Summer Farmers Market is doing great at Brighton High School. Parking constraints due to ongoing construction at the high school, as well as programming for its athletic programs, continue to make congestion a challenge. We are having ongoing discussions around the potential need in terms of space, depending on future Brighton Central School District construction projects. We had an update with regard to our winter farmers market. Outstanding door repairs are among the final punch list items, and they were to have been completed the week ending August 23rd. Our phase 2 of development will entail work on the internal structure with Insight Architecture currently completing bid documents. Mike Guyon, our Commissioner of Public Works, is looking into erecting a coming soon sign on the site. However, we don't expect that the site will be usable until sometime in 2021 at earliest. In terms of our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Committee updates, the first meeting was held with an almost full complement of its 18 members, plus almost all of the town board members were in attendance. We conducted a poll to schedule the next meeting, which will be on September 12th. Materials have been issued for review by the consultant for the next meeting, and we're excited to be developing rapport and beginning the initial stages of an ongoing conversation with the community around issues of diversity and inclusion. We had an update with regard to our community choice aggregation law. The procurement processes of all of the memorandum of understanding municipalities yielded a unanimous recommendation from all of the participating municipalities to approve Jewel Assets as CCA administrator. We are on schedule for all of the MOU municipalities to pass resolutions to officially select an administrator by tonight, August 28th, as we are the last of those municipalities to be addressing that selection. And then we'll transition over to working with the administrator to implement CCA individually among all of the communities. We had several updates with regard to our Brighton Safe Streets for All community group. Membership in the virtual organization on the Facebook page is now up to just under 100 engaged community members, and a general meeting is scheduled for September. On the agenda for that meeting will be updates on town progress towards complete streets goals, as identified in both the Bike Walk Brighton and the Envision Brighton Comprehensive Plan, as well as the formation of a subcommittee to finalize and implement the PACE Car program. And with regard to the PACE Card program, the development of this public awareness and behavioral change campaign has been on hold somewhat since late spring, early summer 2019. However, we now have a critical mass within the Brighton Safe Streets for All community group that is eager to take action on improving condition for walkers and bicyclists in Brighton through driver awareness. And a subcommittee or implementation team will be formed with the goal of launching the program to closely precede or coincide with National Walk to School Day, which is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. We also had an update with regard to our Reconnect Rochester Complete Streets Makeover contest, and that is the contest that involved the intersection of Monroe Avenue and Brooklawn and Torrington that was nominated but not selected for a Complete Streets Makeover. Rather than focusing on just that intersection, Reconnect Rochester has proposed, along with the Brighton Safe Streets for All and Cornell Design Program, to examine the accessibility of the entire stretch of Monroe Avenue from the 12 corners to Interstate 590, much like what was done with our earlier charrettes with regard to Monroe Avenue. And with this corridor, not only a focus area of the Envision Brighton Comprehensive Plan, but also in the pipeline for repaving by the state within the next year or two, the Cornell team would work with the town and the community to develop a vision or rendering and prepare a strong case to advocate for new and improved street design or streetscapes that they'd like to see. This expanded geographic area would provide a multifaceted project with many different components and research tasks to divvy up among the student team members consulting from Cornell. The preliminary walkthrough, or charrette, was scheduled for Monday, August 26th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And representatives from Reconnect Rochester, along with Cornell and the town, met at the 12 corners, walked the street and ramps and back and forth, and are now in the process of discussing next steps. We had an update with regard to our Council Member on Your Corner program. We've determined that a prompt format is more successful than not having a conversation starter. And we discussed the extension of the program to year-round status. And with regard to limitations in space and smaller crowd sizes associated with the Winter Farms Market venue, we're considering implementing the program on a more limited basis, perhaps monthly, but we do anticipate continuing that program. In terms of our Brighton Complete Count Committee, that was the census. Discussions are currently underway to identify what groups or populations or geographic areas may be at risk for undercount within our community, and the supervisor's office has been in contact with Susan Perry, who oversees the Rochester Monroe Complete Count Committee, to ensure that we have both targeted and general outreach within our community. Our goal is to be extremely visible throughout Brighton and throughout this process. We'll host a census ambassador at the Brighton Farmers Market at least once during the outdoor season. Under items of new business, we had representatives of the Beautification Committee attend this meeting, and the Beautification Committee is making the recommendation that 12 Corners Park be a focal point of effort, and presented proposals to the Community Services Committee to begin the process or lay out next steps to accomplish aesthetic improvements to the park as a pilot component of a new program it is proposing called Adopt a Beautification Site. The committee is collecting information and developing a formal recommendation with regard to the structure of the potential Adopt a Site program that would allow for community volunteer efforts and donations to be collated to support improvements in identified areas of town so that the projects would be budget neutral to the town. The Beautification Committee will put together information they've gathered as it relates to the Adopt a Site program and other similar programs that they've observed so that it can be shared with the town attorney for review and opinion. The committee also had several recommendations to improve the health of plantings around the 12 Corners Gazebo Park and inquired about the status of gazebo repairs, which I know our park superintendent is working on. Finally, to improve efficacy, the committee is requesting additional committee members be added, as some have resigned since the initial creation of the committee. The town is taking a holistic look at the committee and will make recommendations on how to best proceed. Finally, we had a discussion of the potential for Brighton opt-in to rent stabilization with regard to the Emergency Tenant Protection Act. Ryan Acuff of the Citywide Tenants Union and St. Joseph's House of Hospitality presented an overview of the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, which passed in both houses of the New York State Legislature in June of this year. Local statistics regarding vacancy rates were reviewed and potential implications of the legislation were discussed. The law represents an extension of the Emergency Tenant Protection Act of 1974, but while previously that law had geographical restrictions limiting it to the areas immediately surrounding New York City, currently over 40 municipalities across the state, predominantly downstate, have opted in to the most recent version of the law. And this most recent manifestation of the law, what thresholds the vacancy rates for implementation would be in Brighton and other communities was discussed, what responsibilities of the implementing municipalities are versus the enforcement entity, which would be the state, as well as the type of housing to which it pertains and what benefits the legislation provides for both tenants and landlords were discussed. And then I just want to highlight some upcoming events. We have our Brighton High School Homecoming Parade, which will be on Saturday, September 7th from 12:45 to 2 p.m. Culminates in the homecoming day football game. And then on Saturday, October 12th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., we will have our semi-annual electronics recycling and document shredding event at the Brighton Highway Department, 1941 Elmwood Avenue. And believe it or not, we're already talking about trick-or-treating. That our sensory-friendly trick-or-treating will be on Friday, October 18th from 4 to 5 p.m. As always, that is a free event, but registration is required as space is limited. That will occur in the Brighton Town Hall lobby. Our semi-annual Drug Enforcement Agency pharmaceutical take-back event will be on Saturday, October 26th at the Brighton the Brighton Town Hall Safety Wing. That is at 2300 Elmwood Avenue. And we're also looking forward to celebrating our Fall Festival on Saturday, October 19th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at the Brighton Town Hall campus. And we will have our Buckland Farmhouse Halloween Happy House on Friday, October 25th from 5 to 6 p.m. Families are welcome. Again, this is a free event, and full details will be in your recreation brochure. Our haunted grounds at the Buckland Farmhouse will also be on Friday, October 25th from 6 to 9 p.m. We look forward to everyone attending. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, September 18th, 2019, 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside School, 220 Idlewood Road. As always, members of the public are encouraged to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Jason, Finance.
Yes, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met last Wednesday, August 21st. Each of the items that we discussed at committee will appear on tonight's agenda and will be voted on and discussed. Our next meeting will be after Labor Day, so we go back to our regular day and time, which is on Tuesday, September 3rd. We meet at 3:30 in the afternoon in the Stage Conference Room here at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks very much, Jason. Public Safety.
So Public Safety Committee has not met since the last town board meeting. The next meeting will be Tuesday, September 10th, 8 a.m. here in the town hall in the lower level meeting room. And as always, the public is encouraged to attend.
Thanks, Christine. Chris?
Our last Public Works Committee meeting was reported on in our last town board meeting, and our next monthly meeting is September 10th at 9 o'clock. The public is invited to attend.
Thank you very much. New business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, Bill, earlier this evening, I reviewed claims totaling $668,626.86. Notable claims include to the Depository Trust Company in the amount of $17,350, representing the semi-annual interest payment only for the 2016 Parks Bond refunding, which is like refinancing. Also to Penny Lane Printing in the amount of $4,737.62, representing payment for the printing of the Town of Brighton's Fall 2019 brochure. Also to Plant Concepts in the amount of $13,971, representing payment for park mowing services as per the Town of Brighton approved bid. To Regional International Corp. in the amount of $131,783.62, representing payment for the purchase of one 6-wheel brush truck per the 2019 CIP and for various international repair parts associated with that piece of equipment. And finally, to BLM Construction Company in the amount of $17,690.63, representing the final payment for the first phase of the barn renovation for the winter market over at Buckland Park. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion on those? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Christine?
All right. The next matter seeks to authorize and to amend the part-time police officer salary and wage schedule. And I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is a matter that Chief Henderson discussed with us. I can't remember if we talked about it both in public safety and in finance,
Yeah,
but
it wasn't in finance. This aligns with the sheriff's department, keeps us competitive with their pay structure.
and you'll see the details of it in the correspondence. So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on that? Dan, then please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to reopen the NICLAS investment account and amend the town's investment policy to reflect the addition of NICLAS. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
NICLAS is an investment vehicle that we have not used for some time, frankly, because in the interest rate environments we've been in, their rate structure has not been competitive with some of the other investments we have available. But for those of you following finance markets, you'll know that right now interest rates are acting a little goofy. And this NICLAS is, in fact, much more competitive right now. And our finance director, Paula Parker, wanted to have that option available to us. Paula, anything else you want to?
No, their rates have become very attractive of late, and we need another tool in our toolbox to help us maximize on interest earnings for the town.
Good. All right. Thank you for that recommendation, and we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. I am going to step out of the room and ask that Councilmember DePoncio lead this next item.
Okay, with respect to the next matter on the Community Choice Aggregation Program, can I have a motion?
Jason, I move that we authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Jewel Assets for administration of the Community Choice Aggregation Program and adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Community Choice Aggregation started back in March of 2018 when the town adopted a local law authorizing the town to hire a third-party administrator in order to procure renewable source energy for the town residents to purchase. So this would be the supply portion of our energy bills. The focus being on 100% renewable. The thought being that if we could aggregate all of our households in our community, as well as in neighboring communities that also adopted local laws, that we would be able to receive rates for this electricity supply at a much more competitive rate. Shortly after we adopted our local law, the towns of Arundecoit and Pittsford adopted their local laws, and then we started the process. Earlier this year, we entered into a memorandum of understanding with the towns of Arundecoit and Pittsford and with the village of Pittsford in order to solicit proposals from the third-party administrators who are authorized by the New York State Public Service Commission in order to serve as third-party administrators in a community choice aggregation program. As a result of that process, we met with Councilmember Wilt and I, on behalf of the town of Brighton, with Commissioner Guyon, as well as representatives from the towns of Arundecoit and Pittsford, and with the village of Pittsford in order to interview two of the who were deemed to be qualified. We received 3 proposals, 2 were deemed qualified, and conduct an interview session where we received more information and were able to ask additional questions. We presented our findings at a FASC meeting held in June, in which all of our colleagues from the town board attended. We were able to discuss and ask questions. We had the opportunity to submit to both candidates for follow-up questions to receive further information, and we engaged in the process going forward, reviewing it through our Finance and Administrative Services Committee, and then the towns of Arundecoit, Pittsford, the village of Pittsford engaging in their process. The towns of Arundecoit and Pittsford, they met last week. The finding was unanimous against the participating towns to select Jewel Assets as the third-party administrator. The towns of Arundecoit and Pittsford met last week and enacted their resolution, and tonight it's our turn, just based on our schedule. So, any discussion or comments?
Jason, the community choice aggregation is a great effort, I think, and it will make a big difference for us here in the town because we can then say we have green energy to begin with. But also, the hope is that there may also be some savings in our energy bills because by negotiating as a group, town-wide with the other towns involved as well, we can be more effective in negotiations. At the same time, however, the citizens will be free to opt out of the program. The idea is that we will default to this supplier unless someone wishes to go elsewhere. And anyone can opt out of the program without charge at any time. So it's the ultimate freedom here and flexibility. But at the same time, the hope is that we'll all stay in and benefit from it in so many ways.
And that's a key point, too. A key component of the third-party administrator's role is public outreach and education, scheduling of public meetings, educating the public, getting the word out. That way the public understands what the program is, what their obligations are, and if they wish to opt out, what that process involves, but what the benefits are, with the goal of having our community receiving 100% renewable electricity. So, any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to add, too, that I think it is exceptionally notable that we're taking a collaborative approach with neighboring municipalities on an issue that affects all of us regardless of borders. Green energy, green practices, green habits affect our entire region, and it's good to be a leader with neighboring municipalities in bonding together to take the right steps. And I hope that our collective community action is an example for the rest of the Monroe County region and the rest of Western New York.
Yeah, I would like to note that with the additional municipalities, we are looking at aggregating almost 50,000 households in our community, which is an impressive number. And I also wanted to note that the particular administrator that we are selecting was very compelling because of its focus on not only aggressive community outreach, but also highlighting a strong local presence to develop more green energies within our communities. And so we're really excited to work with this particular administrator. And I will note that they are, many of the people involved have been working with us to highlight the benefits of CCA for 3 years now. And so it's nice to finally see this come to fruition. We're excited to work with our neighboring communities and with this administrator, and we look forward to the gains that this is going to bring to our community in terms of clean energy.
And thanks, Jason and Robin, for taking the lead on this, and Mike as well for your efforts in the selection process. I know it was quite rigorous.
Any other discussion?
Yes, Councilmember DePonzio. When the town originally adopted the CCA local law, at that time, the town board took on a review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR, which is required for actions. A negative declaration was issued and adopted at that time. In tonight, acting on a resolution to approve an administrator, or at least authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with the administrator. I did have an opportunity to chat with our environmental liaison officer, Ramsey Boehner, and the two of us concluded that this is an action outside the scope of SEQR, does not need an independent SEQR review or a negative declaration. It's simply just not an action under SEQR. So I wanted to put that on the record so that you were aware, and that the public was aware, that we did take a look at SEQR, scratched our heads about it a little bit. I've also conferred with the attorneys in the towns of Arundecoit and Pittsford. They're in accord in how they're handling this as well. If the board does tonight adopt this resolution, then I will be undertaking a review of the proposed agreement with Juul to take a look at it to make sure it is consistent with your wishes. We will be doing that. The attorneys for the towns of Arundecoit, the town of Pittsford, and the village of Pittsford, and I will be doing that together so that we can sort of share ideas and thoughts about that. Of course, our signature and our contract will be our own town contract, independent of what the other towns do.
Thanks, Ken. Any other comments? Seeing there's none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
I will go get
Thanks, Mark.
All right, we'll continue. I assume that the resolution passed, and Jason, I want to thank you for, stepping in and engaging on behalf of the town as we did this. I know Robin was involved in that as well. Thank you. Next, Christine.
All right. The next matter before us seeks to authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $2,000 from the Police Department forfeited property account to the Facility Improvements account to fund an upgrade to the security camera system in the Public Safety Wing. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion on this? This is a matter the chief discussed with us relating to security in the building, important issue these days. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to set a public hearing date for proposed tree removal in Corbett's Glen Nature Park. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
You have in your packet a description of the tree, some communication, some pictures. You can see the condition of it. Mike, I don't know if there's anything you want to say. Obviously, it's a park tree, so Matt has been largely involved in this one as well, but you can see from the pictures the condition that the tree is in.
Yeah, the tree, we had received a report that the tree was in bad shape, took a look at it. Generally, the trees in the parks will fall in the parks. They're not of much concern for the most part, as long as they don't endanger. This one here, if it falls, will fall into a trail. So we decided we need to take special to get this thing down.
And the location does make it a little more difficult than some, but you're in a position to do the work if the board so moves. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, we have, again, a motion and a second to set the public hearing to consider this. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, we have the July 2019 expense and revenue report in your packet, and can I simply have a motion to receive and file that report?
So moved.
Second.
And as always, we will do more at the end of the third quarter. We just had our second quarter report a little while ago. Motion and a second to receive and file the July 2019 report. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Just other matters, we continue, our highway department continues on with their lawn and garden debris pickup, both bulk and containerized. I do get the sense, and I'm pleased to see more and more people are putting their lawn and garden debris on the tree lawn or on their front lawn rather than in the street. I sometimes feel like a broken record, but that's important from a safety perspective for our cyclists, our pedestrians, and our cars. It's important from a drainage perspective because all of that material in the gutter does inevitably clog our storm drains. This is the time of year in particular. We have a long history of tropical storms that come up this way and drop a lot of rain. So again, keep doing it. We're going to keep picking that material up, and kudos to our highway department workers who work hard to do that work. But please keep it on the grass, not in the street. Am I correct, Mike, that next week we go back to our 5-day-a-week
That is correct.
schedule?
7:30, 4:30.
Great. All right. During the summer, we do a 4-day, 10-hour-a-day week, which allows us to get more work done. But we go back to that as the days get shorter. Again, we'll be talking about it when it comes to leaf pickup. Same way with the leaves. Put them on the lawn. Will not kill your lawn. We will pick them up, but it really becomes a safety issue if they're anywhere else. So, enough said. That's all I have tonight. Matters of the attorney to the town?
No, I do have some matters for executive session that I'd like to discuss with the town board later on involving matters of litigation.
So noted. Matters of the clerk?
Thank you, Supervisor. I just want to let everyone know that I'm in possession of the tax warrants from the 5 school districts that serve Brighton, and I expect the bills will be mailed out by the printer on Friday, so you should see them in the mailboxes potentially as early as Saturday, if not on Tuesday. And Tuesday is the first day that we'll be allowed to accept payments. I know we've gotten a number of questions, and we inevitably get some payments early and people guessing at what their payments are going to be or sending partial payments, which we cannot accept for school taxes, and we've had to send some back already. But again, the warrants dictate from the school district when I am allowed to accept payments, and that will not be until September 1st, which is a Sunday, so the 3rd is actually the first day this year. If you are really want to get out there and get ahead of it, you can go on the county's website and you can pay via e-check or credit card with an additional fee starting on Sunday at midnight, if you are particularly industrious. Otherwise, again, you should see the bills shortly and in mailboxes, and they'll be available online potentially as early as Friday afternoon.
Terrific. Thank you, Dan, and I know that becomes a busy time for your office, but you're always there, you're answering questions.
It's a good time. It's fun. You always get to visit with our friends and neighbors as everyone comes in to pay. So it's a very communal event.
Yeah, it is.
Frankly.
A lot, a number of them come down the hall and talk to me or talk to Bridget in my office. So we're always happy to see the community, and I know the school district appreciates everybody's prompt payment. Matters of the town board. Then in that case, can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining and matters of litigation?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFoncio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. I do not anticipate that we will be coming back out after the executive session. So our next town board meeting will be September 11th, Wednesday, September 11th, right here at Brighton Town Hall. Have a great evening, everybody.